action. It's a Marvel specialty, a Marvel trademark. Now sharpen your pencil, Pilgrim, because here's where we separate the men from the boys. Here's a series of poses depicting several different stages in the action of throwing a punch. I want you to notice how the first drawing and the last seem to have the most impact. These are the shots a Marvel artist would use.
Try drawing a series of stick figures performing some action, like running or throwing a ball. Depict as many different stages of that action as possible. Familiarize yourself with the moving body. Use as many lines as you need. Don't try to do a finished drawing. Just loosen up. Try to feel the action.
Well, don't just sit there, true believers. Go ahead. We'll wait for you. Hey, I didn't say we'd wait all day. All right. Compare your practice figures with these. Now, note how the action has been caught in a few simple lines. That's what you want to learn to do. Exaggerate your action, keeping your figure loose, supple, always in motion. The center line drawn through the figure from top to bottom is always drawn first. It gives you the curve or the swing that you want your figure to have.
Always remember, every pose has a certain rhythm to it. With one simple center line, you can determine that rhythm and then start building your entire figure around it. Now let's study some figures in motion to see which ones we like and which we don't. And why?
Both of these figures are rough sketches of someone running, but notice how much more dramatically this figure is moving. Why? Because his center line has more swing, impelling him forward with force and urgency. Now the same is true here. Both figures depict a reaction to a punch in the jaw. This figure is perfectly clear, but it simply isn't done in the Marvel style. It lacks the movement and the sharply curved center line of the other one. Notice how this figure is looser. The legs are bent and thrusting backwards as the arms jut forward. Notice how the head follows the center line, completing a graceful, fluid curve. Now that's the Marvel way, and the same rules apply to figures which are just standing. In these examples, the smaller figures are okay, but just okay. They're not particularly dramatic, they're not overly heroic, and most importantly, they're not very interesting. But the larger figures, showing the same poses, are much more dramatic and heroic. Consequently, they're more interesting. Here are some more examples. The variations may not seem to be major, and yet, as simple a device as thrusting the head farther forward or spreading the legs farther apart can make all the difference. They're simple, loose, free and easy, and although each was done with just a few sketchy lines, they're all Marvel-style drawings. Well, I know you're anxious to start drawing a complete figure now, so let's get to it. John has reduced the process to 5 steps. He's begun step 1 with a basic center line to determine the pose and the action curve. Moving quickly to step 2, he's constructing the sketch using the spheres, cubes, and cylinders we studied earlier. This is basic, but it's very essential. It's how the Marvel artists do it. Step 3 is to draw through the figure, doodling and adding the basic details you'll need. Keep your pencil strokes loose, light, and graceful. If a line isn't right, don't worry. Just go over it lightly until it begins to assume the proper form. And don't be afraid to have more lines than you'll want in the finished product at this point. Remember, we're still building. Okay, once you've got the doodling lines in for all the basic details, study all the little sketch lines and now select the ones that you like the most. Go over those lines again, bearing down harder on the pencil. Take your eraser and clean up the unwanted lines. At this point, your drawing should be beginning to take shape. Remember how we added black tones, shading to our cubes, spheres, and cylinders earlier on? Notice how John gives the figure form and substance by the use of that same shading technique. And don't worry if your first figure doesn't come out looking quite this polished. If you're not satisfied, go back and start over. Be patient. Why, it might take as long as 2 or 3 days before you're as good as Big John.